Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sergeant Covington, and today we're going to be giving a briefing on the DD-214 and service verification. Next slide. All right, today for an overview, we're going to cover the service verification team responsibilities, how to submit a request for a 214 and 215 unit responsibilities, when a 214 gets created, how to create a 214, some of our additional products, frequently asked questions, and how you can help us and the customer. Next slide, please. So ARPC completes 214s for the following members: IMA reservists, separated and retired National Guard and Reserve members, unit assigned National Guard and Reserve members on active duty for active duty retirement, Guard and Reserve members retiring due to placement on permanent disability retirement list or temporary disability retirement list, 214 congressional and BCMR inquiries for National Guard and Reserve members, 215 requests for Guard and Reserve members as well. And to get that started, you would just need to submit a request through the VPC dashboard with your supporting documentation. So what we're looking for is, if you have it available, the 214 in question, orders, award index citations, or travel vouchers. So 214s that are issued regarding RegAF or HQ Guard Reserve Stat Tours, they do need to be coordinated with AFPC or have a DD 149 submitted to the Board of Corrections for Military Records. Next slide, please. So current completion times. So please be advised of our current processing timelines, and also be aware that some delays may occur. So for retirement 214s, you should get that midnight the day following your retirement date. PRDL, TRDL, so 3 to 5 days following your retirement date. And we do receive those notifications from AFPC's Disability Operations Branch on upcoming and past PDRL, TDRLs. If the 214 is delayed past 5 days, a member can contact us directly, or they can contact their case manager. So due to low manning and high volume requests daily, some delays, as I said before, are expected. And saying that, please do not submit multiple requests for the same issue, as it does further extend our timelines for production. So all of our tickets are VA and or pay impacting, so benefits, and if your SLA has passed, please have your unit commander contact the FSS line at their discretion, so we can see if we can go about expediting that 214 you've requested. Next slide, please. Okay, so now we're going to go over to how to submit a DD-214 or 215 request. So you're going to first log into MyPERS, and you're going to want to select the Access the VPC dashboard, and under the I would like to section, on that next page, you're going to click the Action Request tab and request corrections to my DD2 form my DD form 214. Then you're going to request your 214 or certification or release or discharge. We're going to go over an example of just like what both those look like, so you're familiar with how that looks. Next slide, please. And then I don't know if you guys need that zoomed in or not. If you, Ms. Garson, if you are able to zoom in, if you can, just so like they can see that a little bit better. But so after clicking request corrections to my DD-214, this is kind of what the form is going to look like, just that screen that you should see after you click that section. I'm sure it's big enough. All right, go ahead, next slide.
Sorry, I'm not able to increase the size of this, but essentially what this screen will show for the 215s, it will show you all the blocks that are available to you for correction, and then it'll go through what your mailing address is, the unit that you're coming from, and any applicable documentation to attach. So for the 215, it is especially important that you attach all the required documentation for correction to the 215. Otherwise, you can't approve the request. If it somehow gets through to us and it hasn't been approved, then we will deny the request and send it back to you for more information. So that's essentially what this screen is showing.
Okay, so after clicking request your DD2 Form 14 certification of release or discharge, this is going to be an example of what this screen will look like, and we would like to remind you to submit your supporting documentation for both the 215 and 214 requests. So we would, like mentioned before, the 214 in question, looking for orders, travel vouchers, and award index citations. Okay, so the unit MPF and FSS responsibilities. So the MPFs are going to be responsible for unit assigned members who are released voluntary or involuntary for a period of 90 days or more, continuous and consecutive active duty service, or active duty for a contingency operation for a period greater than 30 days. So also wing level and below members who are going to be returning to a status. So it's going to be your AGR, your TRs, so traditional reservists, DSGs, or military technicians, immediately separated or discharged. So people who are not going to return to a traditional or military technician status. Wing assigned members, so for example, state-to-state transfers or unit-to-unit transfers. And so ARC members who have completed a qualifying period of active duty orders prior to starting a set of functional category X orders. And lastly, initial active duty technical training, non-prior service personnel. So we're looking at pipeline students. Okay, so when to create a 214. So to be eligible for a 214, like mentioned before, you need to have completed orders of 90 consecutive days or more for active duty service, or support a contingency, for example, Operation Inherent Resolve or Enduring Freedom for 30 consecutive days or more, placed on MedCon or Med orders for one or more consecutive days, and any of the following named contingencies or involuntary mobilizations. So for contingencies, the good rule to remember is if it's after 23 January 2019, your mobilization must be 30 days or more. And if it's before 23 January 2019, the mobilization only requires 1 day or more. And where to find those list of contingencies? As you see, there's a link right there just to give you a list of all available contingencies. Next slide, please. Okay, and now Ms. Garson is going to brief you guys on our ARPC service verification additional products.
Good afternoon, everyone. So in addition to the 214s, we also have several other service verification products that we do create. So like Chief Modoc said in the beginning, we go by either name, service verification or DD214, but in addition to that, we also have the VA home loan letters for members seeking certificates of eligibility. A lot of times members will get confused and think that we produce the certificate of eligibility, but we don't. We just generate the letter for them so that they can take that to the VA and receive their certificate of eligibility so that they can move forward with buying a home. This letter is typically created within the self-service function that's in the VPC dashboard. However, when that's not working correctly, then you can submit a MyPERS ticket to us and we will create that for you. To be eligible for the VA home loan, these rules are established by the VA and determined by the VA, but you do need to have 6 years or more of participatory service in the National Guard or Reserves. In addition to the home loan letter, actually not in addition to, but in lieu of, you can also send the VA a copy of your orders if you are still on orders, or you can send them a copy of your DD214. They will accept either or. We also create the 1613 statement of service. This is very important to understand. This is only completed if you have reserve time. We do not create statements of service for Guard members or for Guard time. You can obtain a statement of service from the Joint Force Headquarters. And it's also important to note that the purpose of the statement of service is only for military buyback. So if you have a federal civil service job and you want to buy back your time, the 1613 will help you get an estimated earnings statement from DFAS so that you can move forward. It is not to be issued in lieu of a DD214. We have had problems in the past where members have separated or they've retired and they feel that they should get a 214, but when they realize they're not eligible for one, then they want something that says, hey, I served all this time in the military, I should get something. Well, you get probably a discharge certificate, but you will not receive a statement of service for that. So I just wanted to drive that point home. And finally, we do employment verifications. We will do these for past and present members. I understand that the units do have the capability of verifying the employment for current members. So if you're able to do so, please do so, but just know that that is something that we can do and have done. And we will only verify dates of employment. So that should cover everything else that we do as far as the service verification products. Sergeant Covington, back over to you.
All right, now we're going to go over some frequently asked questions. If you could go to the next slide, please. Okay, so first one. I've read about the new DD214-1. When and how will I receive one? So at this current time, this has not been implemented yet, and each branch of service has until 2025 to implement the new 214-1, and we are awaiting implementation guidance. So general issuance of the 214-1 in conjunction with a 214. Please note that this is an end of service document and will not be issued each time a 214 is created. Examples of who get one. So we're looking for members that perform several sets of 90-day orders, ARTs, DSGs, TRs, IMAs that only perform AT, IDTs, and no additional orders that qualify for a 214. And in order to receive a 214-1, you must still qualify for a 214, as the 214-1 will never be issued without that. The members need to complete the D214 worksheet in VMPF. So ARPC does not require members to submit worksheets. However, if you, as the MPF, find this tool helpful, we encourage you keep enforcing that. We do, however, encourage members to look at what information is automatically populated on the 214 worksheet and ensure no immediate issues are present. This information is subject to change based on the source documentation provided. Next slide, please. Okay, where can MPF and FSS find information on how to complete a 214? So just for the source documentation, AFI 36-3202, the PSDG guide found in MyPERS, the D214 certificate of release or discharge from active duty at the bottom will have a PSDG. So IMAs and MPS, please feel free to contact the 214 section via a MyPERS ticket or TFSC with any questions. What documentations are going to be needed to complete 214? As said before, we'll need those Title 10 or 32 orders, a completed travel voucher, signed and dated declarations, DD Form 4 for RegAF only, AF Form 526s, otherwise known as P cards, for 214s prior to 2001, and in most cases, ARPC can pull those from ARMS. So I need a member copy 4, but Prada only has service copy 2. What do I do? So we're going to have the member contact ARPC for the service copy 2 memorandum, and the template can be found. We will update this slide so you can see where the template can be found. Give me one moment. So I have several questions. I have no idea where to start, but what do I do? Please submit a MyPERS ticket to us and provide as much information as you can. Next slide, please. So how you can help us and the customer. So please get familiar with the supporting documentation. So the DODI 1336-01, like mentioned before, AFI 36-3202, the 214 PSDG guide, and know the ins and outs of creating a 214, and also be familiar with what you are responsible for. And so below is going to be a link to the PSDG, just so you have that for your records. And unless it's unavoidable, please don't wait until a member separates so that ARPC becomes responsible to create the 214. If you have the source documentation, you can use BMPF to process that 214. And we're only talking about the ones that are within the MPF or FSS responsibilities as mentioned before. For DD215s, please don't process any of those. Just submit an application, submit a 215 application for approval by your MPF or your FSS, and please include that source documentation with that. And if there's a worst case scenario, please contact us here at ARPC, the 214 team, via a MyPERS ticket. We're always here to help you.
Sergeant Covington, we have a question on the chat. I'd like to go ahead and ask real quick if you don't mind. So for guard members, for guard members who complete an AGR tour of 2 to 3 years, but do not retire and only separate and return to DSG status, is ARPC responsible for the DD 214 with the members submitting the request, or is the MPF responsible? And let me know if you need me to repeat any of that, please.
All right. Ms. Garson, would you like to speak to this question for this DSG?
The MPF would be responsible for that because they're not leaving, they're just transitioning back to their technician status. So they're still technically assigned to the unit. So the MPF would be responsible for that DD 214.
Hey, can I jump in and just add a little bit to that question, Chief Boydston? Thanks for that question. To the guard units out there, and maybe even to some extent the reserve. And when we're saying, you know, it's the MPF or base level responsibility for certain things, whichever work center that you decide locally handles that. Of course, that's up to you guys. In this case, many places that I've visited and I've been stationed at in the guard, our HR remote or RDO, the remote designee, would be the office that would handle that particular DD 214 because it was as a result of an AGR tour that was completed. But if it's someone else, maybe in force management, that's fine as well. Thank you.
The only time you wouldn't handle that is if you have someone who transfers components. So if someone goes from guard to reserve or reserve to guard, and they were on a different set of orders, you wouldn't be responsible for a separate component because you no longer have, or you wouldn't have access to their information. So at that point, it would come to us. But if it's still guard to guard or reserve to reserve, then yes, the MPF would be responsible for that. Just to add to that, sorry.
Thank you, ma'am. And then we have another question. It's similar. For AGRs retiring, do they need to submit a request for the retirement 214 or does ARPC automatically generate it?
So we do automatically generate it. Sorry, Sergeant Covington, do you want to answer that?
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. So when the retirement section here at ARPC publishes the order, it will automatically generate a ticket to us notifying us that someone is coming up on their retirement. Usually within about 6 months, we're notified and we keep that information in a waiting status until the time comes. We have had some issues with that cop ticket spawning over to us. So at that point, if a member has not received anything from us, then they should probably initiate a ticket. But 9 times out of 10, if they are AGR, then yes, they will already have a ticket. They do not need to submit it. We will notify them that, hey, we have notification that you've got an upcoming retirement date. Congratulations. Here's what you need to do. Here's what you need to look out for. So we try to get them taken care of so that they don't have to worry about it.
Thank you, ma'am. And then one more question before we move on to the next slide. I see. Can we please clarify the award section of the DD 214 for National Guard? The guide says to add all awards, but the worksheet says to add only awards earned during that time for Guard. Can you clarify on that?
So for retirement DD 214, all the awards index will be added, but for awards, all of the awards index will be added. It's more of that's going to be towards like for the education. The education only, like the education done during that time period, will be placed in the 214. But for retirement 214, all of the awards index will be for retirement or standard 214. All of the awards index will be added.
Copy. Thank you, sir. I'll let you proceed to see if you answer any of these next questions, and then we'll hold these until the end. If that's all right with you.
All right.
Actually, I believe this is the last slide. I think the next one is questions. So we're moving right along.